Welcome back to another edition of the Fanatics View Hockey Show. My name is James Lynch. Happy to welcome back on. We had him on not that long ago, but we got to talk about the series between the Dallas Stars and Colorado Avalanche. The stakes are high, and happy to get our guy back, Travis Tyler, here on the program covering the Dallas Stars. He's boots on the ground here. Travis, how you doing, man?
I'm good, James. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's really exciting what's going on. First, let me just start with, obviously, what's the vibe like right now in terms of, obviously they get the big win the other night. I felt, we'll talk about the media coverage because that's an entirely different thing, sort of with this series. But there must be a sense of optimism right now with how things went in the last game and just how well Jake Ottinger's playing. Like, what's sort of the pulse right now with the Stars in this series?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the win on what was it? Monday night was huge. I mean, to go from possibly the worst playoff game that they've played in quite some time to a 6-2 pretty decisive victory. I mean, it didn't feel like everything was going perfectly, but it was pretty much as close to perfect as it possibly could, given those circumstances. Ottinger has been ridiculous. Even in that 4-0 shutout in Colorado, none of that was really on him. He was facing ridiculous amount of shots, especially in that second period. When they went up they got a couple quick goals, and then when they went up 3-0, it seemed like they were going to be going pretty easily, and then Colorado cut it down to a goal. And the big thing was Ottinger making saves to keep that to keep the lead in general, and then the forwards for Dallas punching back and getting 2 quick goals right there before that period was over. And just kind of taking over that game. So it went from very low vibes to a pretty good vibe going into game 6 to where, I've heard people say that, the series is over, which I mean, that's a bold claim considering It's just one game, but yeah.
We're looking at the score sheet here. You got Mikko Rantanen with a goal and 2 assists. Wyatt Johnson. I mean, that goal 9 seconds in, like that's got to just kind of set the tone and say, look, we're not going away here. We're actually going to try and take this over here. So I knew when I saw that we were going to get a much different game than we saw the game previously. Who's impressed you the most so far in the playoffs? We talked about Ottinger. Obviously, he's been solid. Wyatt Johnson, goal and 2 assists. Is there anyone on this team that's really caught your eye this series?
I mean, it's been pretty even. I would say that the thing that stood out to me the most was, and a lot of people have mentioned this, but Pete DeBoer challenged all of them to show up because they hadn't been showing up before this game. And then you look at the stat sheet from the last game, and it's all the big guys. It's Rantanen, it's Hintz, it's Duchesne with the assist, Harley with the goals, Johnston with the 2 goals, obviously. So I would say that's really what stood out to me more than just a singular player performance. Is like the way they've been able to respond.
Something I alluded to off the top has been the media coverage in this, because I'm an outsider kind of watching this whole thing. And look, don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound like I'm a hater. The Gabriel Landeskog story is amazing. That goal he scored the other night, that was awesome to see. As someone who, it didn't look like he was going to ever play again, for him to come back and have an impact on the series is great. But I do feel like there was a bit of, and again, I know Dallas is ahead and nothing's guaranteed, but I do feel like there was a lot of like, we're writing Dallas off, the series is over type talk from the media going into this. Did you notice this? Because I'm watching this going, hold on a second here. Dallas has got the better goaltender. Dallas, yes, they might be dealing with some injuries going into this series, but this is still a very well-balanced team. Is that even like a talking point right now? Have you kind of noticed that there's been a little bit of bias, I think, towards Colorado in this series as from the overall coverage?
I think there definitely was at the beginning of the series, especially the way Dallas finished the regular season with it was 7 or 8 losses in a row, and then they lose game 1 the way they did, which was a closer game than the score indicated, obviously. But I think. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, no worries. There's a lot to kind of unpack here. Just kind of about the coverage. Because, to me, like, I think one thing that I think has been lost in all this, and, you saw it in the last game, and listen, I don't think he played terrible, but Mackenzie Blackwood, he's not proven. And this is something that I think is a difference in the playoffs. When you have that playoff experience, you've got Ottinger who's been there before. Blackwood, I don't even think, maybe he was in the playoffs with New Jersey years ago, but I don't ever remember him having much playoff experience overall. I think this is a big talking point because you can't, as we saw yesterday, even in the Carolina game where, they don't have Freddie Anderson, it's, there can be some leaks there. I think that's something that was very much missed even going into this series was the battle of the goaltenders. Dallas has got that in spades, in my opinion.
Yeah. That you just reminded me of where I wanted to go with this. So thank you. I wrote a series preview for Last Word on Hockey before the series, obviously, and that's one of the points that I saw was, the things that I thought was, they're pretty even when it comes to the forwards. They got all that depth and plenty of skill and scoring ability. Defensively, you probably lean towards Colorado a little more, but then Ottinger has the playoff experience, and he's shown that in this series. And he showed that, quite frankly, last year in the second round series. He was I tend to think he was a pretty big difference in that, especially with the overtime games they had. That I remember watching it and thinking, they're going after Georgiev, and it felt like any shot that went anywhere near the net had a chance of going in.
Right.
On Colorado. So, and then Blackwood, looking at this matchup going into it, Blackwood and Wedgwood didn't have any playoff starts between the two of them going into this series. So I thought that was going to be a huge advantage for Dallas. It took a while to get there, considering Blackwood's played really well the first 4 games of this series, but he finally, they finally got him in game 5. So it's going to be on him to recover in his first playoff series. But until game 5, he had impressed me with the way he had been playing.
What do you think's gone wrong for Colorado, kind of looking on the other end? Because you've been watching this team closely. For me, the big one is Cale Makar. Has been almost invisible in this series as far as points. You even look at it here. In this game, he has 4 shots on net, but isn't able to get one in there. To me, he's got to be a difference maker for this team. You can't just rely on McKinnon and some of these other names to go out there and get the goals in. Is that something you're kind of keeping an eye on, or what are some things you're noticing about the Colorado end, why they haven't been able to take over the series?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I feel like there's a lot of, the same goal scorers every night, the same guys performing, and sometimes in the playoffs you need, those unlikely guys to step up. And I mean, it's not that they totally have for Dallas either, but Colorado, they're relying on McKinnon, they're relying on Lehkonen, they're not getting what they need out of Makar, like you said. I don't think they've gotten what they need out of Brock Nelson or Charlie Coyle. So it's kind of, and maybe even Jonathan Drouin a little bit too. So they've kind of needed a little bit more consistency from those forwards. Because it's honestly been a lot of McKinnon and Natchez and Lehkonen for most of the series, and Landeskog when you throw them in there.
Yeah, and I was just going to kind of compare notes. Like you look here at Dallas, the one thing that I think, and I've always kind of said this about Dallas, like Dallas doesn't really have, they obviously have a couple standouts, and obviously getting a guy like Mikko Rantanen, that certainly is sort of more towards that star, power that you need on the team, but it's just a well-balanced team. And I think this time of year, you need guys to step up that maybe aren't there. You're looking at the score sheet. Granted, they did score a lot of goals, but I'm seeing points from, Petrovic and Harley. And, it seems like it's more balanced. They're not as reliant on their sort of their bigger names going into that. And I think that's another reason for the success. Before I forget, because you mentioned Charlie Coyle, did you see that clip on the bench where McKinnon was giving it to him on that, I think it was the power play where they weren't able to do anything, and McKinnon, you can just, you don't even have to hear, you can't hear the audio. You can just sort of see his mouth, but he's getting pissed off at Coyle for not doing his thing. So I think there is a bit of frustration setting in with Colorado.
I heard about it. I didn't see it, but that's not a good sign for a team ever, when you're just getting pissed off at each other internally and just calling each other. I mean, at least he's got it's a good leadership thing to call a guy out for that, but it's also not good to see when they're not on the same page, because they're on the brink of elimination right now. Everybody's got to be on the same page if you want to survive. And I will say, I did say earlier, the Stars haven't had guys, like unlikely guys, step up. Colin Blackwell did that one game. I'll give him that one. They've played really well. Like the depth guys have played really well. It's just not. I just meant like on the score sheet. There's only been a few times that they've popped up, and it's been better than Colorado, and that's been a little bit better in the series.
Prediction for the next game. Do you think Dallas can close this out? Do you think what you saw in that last game is a sign of them being able to take over the series? Or are you worried that Colorado could come back and come out swinging in this one? What's sort of your thoughts? Because that's tomorrow night is the game, is my understanding.
Yeah. I had picked Dallas to win the series in 7 when the series first started. The way they're playing though, and the fact that they've already stolen a game on the road in this series makes me think that it's going to end in 6. The more that I think about it. Yeah, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. I think you had a better point. I was just going to talk about it. Actually, no. You know what? I'll step in here. I'll break. Go for it. So when I'm watching at home, and I know it's weird. I don't know if you're aware of this, but like how they do the games in Dallas, like the camera's lower. It's really weird. Where like you see most arenas, the camera's a little bit higher. So I kind of what I mean by that is like you really see the crowd when they score. Like it seems like a great atmosphere. And I think part of that is enhanced because the camera is a little bit lower. But how much is an advantage to being at home? Because I do think that if you look at some of the teams that are in the playoffs right now, it does feel like, being at home for Dallas is a big asset because the fans seem to really be into it. They also seem very vocal if they're not happy about things. How much playing at home has, as you're in the arena, how much is that an advantage for Dallas?
Yeah, I would say that, with my prediction in the preview that I wrote, the two biggest things for me in picking Dallas to win the series in 7 was Ottinger and then the home arena, because it's just such a crazy atmosphere. Like I grew up, big Red Wings fan in a Red Wings family, seeing plenty of playoff hockey, and I find myself walking into that arena saying, "This is exactly what playoff hockey is supposed to be," and that's a huge credit to what they've built around here and what how the fans have embraced this team and the way they're playing and the success that they've had on the ice. And, if they do lose game 6, I have plenty of confidence saying they'll be able to come home and end the series, even though, at that point it's a coin flip 50-50.
Yeah, no, I agree. I still got to get to game Dallas. My goal in life is to go to every arena. I've been to a lot of them. Dallas is one I've been to. So next year, I think that's on the agenda here. Quick question here from Natalie. It says Dallas is executed more often, and you're still seeing how their depth. I'm assuming you're saying you're still seeing their depth. That's kind of what we talked about. Again, you're getting contributions from pretty much everyone. I don't think there's, you tell me, maybe, is there anyone that maybe hasn't lived up to expectations in the playoffs so far, despite the fact that they're ahead in this series? Is there anyone that is a bit concerning, or any sort of, players that maybe need to pick it up a bit?
I don't think anybody's been overly concerning. I think there's been some guys who you would like to see on the scoreboard just to see them on there. But and I think that the concerning part would be the injuries as far as the playoffs when the playoffs keep going on into the next round or whatever, and we're just sitting there waiting to see who's going to be available every night. I would say maybe Mikael Granlund or Jamie Benn. You like to see a few more goals in the net from those guys, just from their veteran standpoint, and maybe get Oscar Beck one, just to get that playoff monkey off his back, kind of, and as a rookie player, finally get your first tally in there.
Yep, I would agree with that. I was actually going to point to Granlund because I'm seeing here he didn't get a single shot on net. You got to do that as a veteran. He was obviously acquired in that big trade with San Jose that also brought over Cody Ceci as well. I think just sort of last thing on Dallas, then we'll kind of move on here. How much does it help too that they have a pretty good system as far as prospects and players that they can call up? You mentioned the injuries right now. We haven't even talked about the fact that they are missing 2 of their big names on the roster right now, and they're still getting it done. Like, how encouraging is that there's some teams, they don't have that depth, and so when they get injuries, it really is a gut blow to them.
Yeah. I think, they run pretty similar system, if not the same system, down in the AHL. So those guys are able to get in there pretty easily and not miss much. And plus, they've had a bunch of guys jumping between those two teams, between the 2 levels, the past couple of years. You look at Petrovic; he came in and played great against Colorado last year. He's playing really well against Colorado this year. And then those rookies, they've not only played well. And the score sheet's not going to show a lot of points for them, obviously, but they've played well and they've played really poised, especially with Liam. We haven't even talked about Liam Bichel at that back end of his rookie year, and then Thomas Harley's still a younger guy, and he's come up and since Miro Heiskanen's been out, he's been fantastic. So, you just like Pete DeBoer said, there's not a lot of young guys in this series, but the ones that they have that are there are pretty much all on Dallas, and they're all playing pretty poised, and that bodes well for the way this team can play in the future.
And it's incredible that they've been able to draft so well, considering that, this is a team that never really went through a rebuild. Like if you think of the success they had like in the late 90s into the 2000s, they've never really gone through that. Like, hey, we're going to tear it all down and build it back up. They've kind of just added pieces, made the trades they need to. Another thing that I think has been good about Dallas, and credit to the GM, is that they know when to cut their losses as far as, players and cap space. And I think that's, what you're seeing. You're seeing the fruits of that labor in terms of what we're seeing as far as the roster construction with this team. So it's been very encouraging. But yeah, I think Dallas is going to close it out the next game. We'll have to see. I don't know how much you've been watching some of the other action that's going on, but let's have a look at some of the games. We can even talk about tonight a little bit. And obviously last night, the Kings, let's quickly go over last night, actually, because I didn't watch all the games. I was actually, I did coach some lacrosse, but I caught the highlights. I think the Kings are done. I mean, that it's crazy to think that coaching call or the challenge from, what was it, 2 games ago, it's really messed with the Kings. And now here's the Oilers up 3-2. Like, I don't think the Kings are going to come back from this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think that. I mean, you choke on a lead like that, especially as badly as they have. And it's hard to come back from it. Especially, I didn't see a lot of last night's game, but they didn't look very competitive.
No,
for much of that. So
yeah, and we can look at the shots on net here quickly. Yeah. So the Oilers, Calvin Pickard only needing to make 21 saves on 22 shots. Then the other end, Darcy Kemper, look at this, 45. Like, you can't be letting that many shots on net. No. And I think Edmonton's just kind of found their groove right now. Evander Kane getting a goal last night. Obviously, that was a big talking point. He didn't play all season. So to get some production from him is very encouraging. But yeah, I think as much as it pains me as a Canucks, someone who lives here in Vancouver, the Oilers, I think, are going to take this one. But I don't know how far they're going to go, honestly, because, again, I think the goaltending, we just talked about that. Calvin Pickard may be getting it done now. I don't think he's going to get it done in these other series, even if they do advance. And then you still got the big hole on defense with Odell Holmes. So we'll see how all that goes. But certainly interesting change of tide there. The Golden Knights beating the Minnesota Wild. Wild are still getting good production, though. Like, again, you saw Kaprizov get I think a goal right after Vegas scored last night. So they're still getting a lot of offense. But I think at the end of the day, Vegas is just a juggernaut. Like, they are so well balanced. They have Eichel, they have Stone. I think Vegas is still going to take this as well. Obviously, they won an overtime game, was a little bit closer. But do you think Minnesota can pull this off? I think they're kind of running out of steam at this point.
Yeah, the way I looked at it, like, I was looking at the stats from the series and specifically the point distribution and everything. And you look at Minnesota, and they got it's Kaprizov with 9 points, Boldy with 7, and then everybody else has 2. And then you look at Vegas, and you've got Hurdle's got 5, but then everybody else is 3, 2, 1. There's only 2 guys that have played the entire series, 2 skaters that have played the entire series for Vegas that don't have any points. And you're looking at how deep their lineup is. I mean, they have a guy who's got a couple 20-goal seasons in Tanner Pearson, who's only played in 2 games in the series.
Yeah.
So,
true.
I mean, that just speaks to the depth that they have in that lineup. And it sucks for Minnesota because they could easily have been up 3-1 in the series with those overtime games. I mean, they blew game 4 with 2 third-period goals and then couldn't come up with the overtime winner. And then it looked like they had won last night, and then goal gets pulled off the board for offsides. So, it's those calls this time of year that'll end your season, unfortunately. But I know with the way Vegas and Dallas have played, the Dallas fans are definitely rooting for Minnesota in this one, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's going to happen at this point.
Well, and that's what's interesting. The Knights do play the star, because I think they're kind of similar. Although I would say, Vegas has a superstar here in Eichel, but outside of that, again, 2 really well balanced teams. But again, if I'm going with the goaltending, I'm still taking Ottinger over Adin Hill. So even I'll take the American over the Canadian. Even that's fine with me. But I'm a big believer in Ottinger. I think he's one of the best out there. So that's great. We do have a team moving on. Carolina getting it done. New Jersey blew this yesterday. I don't know if you saw.
Yeah.
They were up. What was it, 4-0, and then the Canes come back, and I think this just speaks to the experience of the Hurricanes. They've been there so many times in the playoffs. This is a team that is well coached by Rod Brindamore. I think the only New Jersey only has themselves to blame. Look at this, 54 shots on net for Jacob Markstrom. Like, that's crazy.
Jeez.
How does that even happen?
Yeah.
And considering Carolina's not even really, I mean, they're more of a defensive team, I think, than even like an offense.
They're not aggressive. Yeah.
Yeah. So that to me was a big shocker there. Now, obviously, Jack Hughes is in this series. This might be a different story, but New Jersey's a young team; they'll be back. But good learning experience, I think, for the Devils.
Also 2 overtimes.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah,
so I was about to say, 54 shots cannot happen in the playoffs, but that's a lot of time to be playing too.
I should mention 2 overtimes, so that's part of the reason why. On the other end, 35 saves.
Well,
on the other,
that's still 20 shots.
Yeah, exactly. That cannot happen. And then the big one here. So, living in Canada, everything centers around the Leafs. Even here on the West Coast, everyone's talking about the Leafs. There's some panic. And I got a couple of friends who are Ottawa Senators fans. Actually, Andrew Stein, who we had on the show here last week. A little bit of gloating, and I don't blame him. I don't know what's going on with the Leafs right now. They had a chance to close it out a couple games ago, weren't able to do it. The Sens win 4-0 last night. I'm kind of getting the sense, I mean, I know Craig Berube is a Stanley Cup winning coach. I'm sure he's, laying down the law here, so to speak. But you got to be worried because the Leafs have seen this time and time again in the playoffs. They choke it away. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, Taylor and I were just talking about this while we were covering the Stars game the other day. So we basically, that everybody who's followed hockey knows that the Leafs have had a tendency to choke away playoff series. And it might not be this one. They might still survive this one, but they've had that really long cup drought since '61, and a lot of that has been because they get in these series, or at least recently has been because they get in these series and they end up blowing it. That they'll have a 2-0, 3-1 lead, whatever, and won't survive. I mean, yeah, it's just the way it is. What I said to Taylor was they find a way to lose series when it comes down to the playoffs, and that's why they don't win.
Yeah, and you're getting guys like Chuck. We sort of knew this with the Chuck brothers are sort of built for playoff hockey. So Brady really elevating his game goal and assists there. And again, you look at the shots on net. Allmark playing great. That was the big thing in the first game was that Allmark didn't play so good. Again, Ottawa didn't even get that many shots on net. If you look at it, Stolarz. So that's got to be a bit concerning too. That the Sens, and let's be honest here, the Sens outplayed the Leafs in game 2, right? So realistically, Ottawa could be up 3-2 if you're kind of looking at how everything's been going. But I don't know, man. And I'm telling you this: if the Leafs lose this, it's going to be absolute chaos because you got Mitch Marner's a free agent. It could get really interesting in Toronto if they blow this. But I still think the Leafs will pull it off. But honestly, I don't know. I thought they were going to pull it off years ago against all the teams at Boston, Tampa Bay, all these teams that they can't. Montreal, they can't seem to get over the hump. So wouldn't shock me if the Leafs end up losing this one.
I think they'll be fine in that series, but it's concerning for series going forward.
And then, looking ahead, obviously, so we got the Leafs game tomorrow. How about the Jets and the Blues? This is another series where I think the tide is turning, kind of like Edmonton and LA. I think St. Louis, I think they got all the mojo right now. And you know what it comes down to, and it's something we've talked about on the show before. They overplayed Hellebuck, and I think you're seeing that. If you look at the numbers, there's no reason. There was a point where I think Winnipeg was on some 7-game win streak, and they kept playing Hellebuck. I don't get it. And it's weird too, because they have a different coach this year. They have, obviously they had Rick Bowness. Now it's Arneal. I don't know why they keep doing this, because I saw this firsthand in Vancouver. That's why Demko is as injury prone as he is. They overplayed him. Same thing's happening here with Winnipeg. So where are you leaning on this series, and what do you think is going to end up happening?
I still think Winnipeg pulls it out, but I do agree with the concern. For whatever reason, whether it's playing him too much during the regular season, Hellebuck turns into a little bit of a different goalie in the playoffs. So St. Louis has opened that door, and they've been a really hot team lately. So it wouldn't surprise me if they won that one. But I just think Winnipeg's the better team overall, and that should prevail. But anything's possible when they hit the ice. Yeah. But I think the Western Conference overall is kind of shown to be this weird, tough gauntlet almost, because every series is tied 2-2 pretty much, and these lower seeds that are supposed to be worse are playing pretty even with these top teams, and a lot of them tend to be from the Central Division too. So one thing I've been paying attention to is how many Pacific Division teams are going to be surviving through all this stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. We just got two more series I want to quickly go over, obviously, because the first one we've got a lot to go into. The Capitals and Canadians, Caps are up 3-1. Wouldn't shock me if Montreal was able to win a game in here and keep themselves alive. They are a pesky team. They're a young team. This is a team that, again, has a lot of depth as well. Like you saw, they got Demidov obviously, coming in and helping out. Montembeault, inexperienced, but another guy that I think has the talent to possibly carry this. I still think Washington takes it, but what are your thoughts on the Canadians going forward here?
Yeah, I think that run they went on at the end of the regular season was really good for their future. I mean, it reminds me of what Washington did last year to get into the playoffs. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Canadians, like you said, won another game, but I think Washington wins that series.
Yeah, I'm actually really impressed with Washington. Like they're, again, speaking of balance, like again, they don't seem like they're relying too heavily on some of their stars, and they're getting production from all players. You're getting guys like Chikrin, getting in there and getting spots, and the goaltending's been fairly good. Now, I guess the one thing we gotta kind of keep an eye on is this Logan Thompson thing, because obviously he was hurt. Is he going to be starting? Like, I actually going to probably check that right now. As far as his health, because that could be an X factor. I'm just trying to see. So it says, okay, so according to this RotoWire, Logan Thompson, first goalie off Wednesday's morning skate, indicating that he'll draw in game 5. So that's good. That's a big boost for them. Honestly, I like their backup too. I mean, that was actually something I forgot to mention about Winnipeg, where I think Winnipeg's kind of screwed. Nothing against Eric Comrie, but you look at the teams that are remaining here, they all have pretty good backups. I think Comrie really fits that bill. So if Hellebuck's not playing well, I think Winnipeg's done. I don't think there's any question about it. So but yeah, here with the Capitals, they do have a good, capable backup, and they've done this strategy, which you're seeing certain teams do now, which is they're paying a little bit more for a backup, but they have that 1-2 punch, which I think you need, especially this time of year if things go down. And by the way, I'm a Casey DeSmith fan. He was in Vancouver last year. I know he had that meltdown game against Vancouver late in the year, but outside of that, he's he plays well. He's capable of getting the stops that you need, and I don't think it's much of a difference, to be honest, than because you guys had Wedgwood last year, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of the teams that have won these cups and have been consistent cup contenders have had 2 goalies that they've had to play in the playoffs, or that can play in the playoffs. It's not. It's never one guy going through. I should say never, but it's not always one guy going through.
You're exactly right. It's usually that 1-2 punch that makes it out there. Okay, last series we've got to talk about here: Lightning and Panthers. Again, I'll never count Tampa Bay out, but I mean, it's pretty incredible what Florida's doing here, and I think they're getting healthy at the right time. Tampa Bay has a lot of weapons, but what's interesting? I don't know if you caught the goalie stats here. Vasilevsky not playing that great. If you look at some of his stats overall, they need him to be better, especially. But what are your thoughts on that series? Like, I do think Florida's going to end up winning this, and they were my pick to begin with going in here.
Yeah, goaltending definitely. We've talked about is one of the big things when it comes to playoff hockey. You got to have. Better goaltending is obviously what's going to win this series most times. I think Tampa was winning that game 2-1, that last game, and Florida scored 2 goals in the span of 11 seconds. I think that it was kind of where Florida said, "Okay, enough, enough fooling around, enough messing around, and we're going to go ahead and take this series." And I think that's what Tampa could win another game, but I think that's what gave Florida the win in that series.
Yeah, and you're looking at the stats here, the last couple seasons here, 884, 897, like he was definitely better years ago. It's not going to all ride on him. I mean, you can't have teams make comebacks like Florida did the other game and not, respond yourself. So it's going to take a lot of soul searching. Here's a question for you, because some of my friends have been talking about this. I have my answer in my head, but I'm curious this. If Tampa's out in the first round, do you think John Cooper's job is in danger here? Because this has been a couple of years now that Tampa hasn't been able to get over the hump.
I think a lot of their fans think it is. I wouldn't, with the success that he's had. I mean, he's still making the playoffs. It's not like a Mike Sullivan situation where they're missing the playoffs over and over now. So as long as they're still in the conversation, I think he should be fine. But again, it's the NHL, and sports overall are a "what have you done for me lately" type of business, and it's especially that way in the NHL. The coaches seem to get fired and recycled and everything much more easily and quickly than the other major sports.
Yeah. It's and that actually brings me then. This is an older tweet because obviously this is updated from yesterday. But Frank Saravalli with the tweet with Mike Sullivan moving on. The head coaching vacancies include the Bruins, Rangers, Flyers, Blackhawks, Ducks, Kraken, Penguins, now Canucks. Because obviously that segues into my next thing. By the way, to answer my own question, I think Cooper stays. I mean, this is a coach who coached the Four Nations. He's sort of hockey royalty at this point. I think it would take a lot for him to go.
That's a great point.
Where Sullivan, it did, maybe if it was any other market, Sullivan would have been let go a few seasons ago. But because, they really love him and believe in him as a coach, it took him a while for them to hold on. So I think Cooper stays. But I will say this, if Cooper ever does leave, the Canucks should be making a pitch. He's from Vancouver. He's from British Columbia. So I think that would be a good move there just to think about it. But what do you make of this? Because here in Vancouver, the sky is falling. It's dark days ahead. Rick Tocchet. And it's not even the fact that Tocchet doesn't want to come back. Because I'll be honest, the market here was mixed on Tocchet. Because on the one hand, he was a Jack Adams Award winner last year. They had a lot of success last year. We know Quinn Hughes loves playing for him. The players talk about how great of a coach he is, him and Adam Foote and Sergei Gonchar. But at the same time, it was a tough season, and it wasn't that fun to watch at all, Travis. It was actually pretty boring to watch some of these games where they couldn't generate any offense. And I think part of the fans, I think fans are split. I think the thing that's concerning is that Tocchet looks at the situation, even with his relationship with Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford, and says, I don't want to be a part of this. So if he's saying that, who's going to want to come here and coach? And what does that say about the state of the team right now? So I wasn't overly shocked with this because I felt the longer this went on with Rick Tocchet being out, that he was not going to be returning. But what was sort of your initial reaction hearing this as sort of an outsider?
Yeah, I mean, I'll add to that. He's a very fun interview and press conference. Like I haven't interviewed him individually, but being in his press conference, he's very, very fun from a media perspective. My reaction when I first heard it wasn't a surprise. Like when they were here a couple weeks ago playing the Stars, there were questions about his job security, whether he was gonna, whether he was gonna survive, honestly. And he said, he was asked a few questions about it. He just kind of gave the generic, it's not really up to me kind of answer, even though, when you find out that he decided that he was done, it was up to him in the long run. So it was interesting to see that part, that he was the one that decided to walk away, because it didn't seem like that was the way things were going to go. And you have to wonder if he knew that he was going to walk away at that point. But, I mean, this is all just speculation from what I've seen and everything. So you never know. I found that more interesting once I found out that he was the one that stepped away, because a lot of times that says a little more about certain situations. I mean, he said he cited family reasons as part of why he was stepping away. But overall, I wasn't really surprised that the move was made. And, he's going to have, if he wants to coach or broadcast, he's got broadcasting history. He's going to have options of where he wants to go. It might not be as sought after a candidate as some of these other guys that are out there, but it's interesting to see how quickly he went from Jack Adams Award winner, winning the division, going to second round of the playoffs, and then dropping all the way out of the playoffs. But I mean, also when something like that happens, that's the coach isn't going to stick around very long once there's that much of a drop off, that much digression.
Yeah, so we got a couple things to kind of unpack here. And by the way, Jacob, I see your question in the chat. We'll get to that in a sec. We'll get back to some Stars talk here. But here is something from Bob the Moj Marjanovic, who's a broadcaster here in Vancouver. He says, Tocchet leaving not a surprise. Besides money, other issues were lack of practice facility and long-term future of Quinn Hughes. So a lot of people don't know this, well, maybe outside of Vancouver, but they don't have a proper practice facility. So they practice at Rogers Arena, where the team is, but they don't have like their own state-of-the-art facility. And it's been a sticking point forever. The owner, for whatever reason, has not made it a priority to build it. And it is an issue because they have to practice at UBC, which is University of British Columbia. And it's not a great arena. It's meant for like university, Canadian university hockey, not even NCAA. So that's a sticking point. The Quinn Hughes thing is, his contract's up in 2 years. I don't think it's any secret that he wants to go play with his brothers. So if he's not sticking around, why would Tocchet? So those did contribute. He mentions the money thing. It sort of came out. I mean, maybe Moj is right about this, but there's been multiple reports right now. Frank Saravalli reporting that they did give him a good offer, so it wasn't an issue there. I think that is a sigh of relief to the Canucks fans because there was some talk about them penny pinching. They don't have their first round pick from a couple of years ago, Tom Willander, signed because of money apparently. So at least the money's there, but. I think these are all things that Tocchet didn't want to stick around for. So from that perspective, it's very concerning if he's not seeing this. But I think everyone kind of knew about this already, about the practice facility, about the Hughes thing. He doesn't want to be probably here for a rebuild. Now, as far as like him being sought after, I would say he is probably the most sought after coach outside of Mike Sullivan. I think Sullivan will be at the top of the list.
That
I can
was
make
my
a prediction
point.
here. I will, because it's my show. I think he's going to the Rangers. I think they can afford him. I think it's going to come down to the Bruins and the Rangers as far as a bidding war for Mike Sullivan. I believe, let me double check this. I feel like Sullivan's from the Boston area, if I'm not mistaken. Where's he from? He's from Massachusetts. So maybe there's that, but I could see the Rangers really rolling out the red carpet and trying to get him in there. He's an American coach. Seems like a good fit there. Your thoughts on Sullivan, and then for Tocchet, I'll just say this quickly. I think he's going to the Flyers. This was a born and bred Philadelphia Flyer. He tough guy. Played a good chunk of his career there. The second that job came open, when John Tortorella was let go, there was already rumors about Tocchet going there. I think that's playing a role when Tocchet talks about family. I believe Tocchet actually resides in Vegas, but I believe he has family in Pennsylvania from when he played for both Pittsburgh and Philly. So my prediction is Sullivan to the Rangers, and you've got Tocchet to the Flyers. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that that's actually what
hold on one sec. Is it on my end or your end? 1 second here. Let me check my audio. Okay, my audio is good. Let me just double check if it's my headphones here. This is the beauty of doing things live. I'm just going to check make sure I'm getting some audio feedback on my end here. Hold on a second. Could be on my end too. Yeah, I think it's on your end because I'm getting audio through my headphones. So maybe just double check your audio on your thing there. Your mic. It should, if you go to settings, it should say in audio if your mic is getting any volume there. And if it is, then maybe hop back out and hop back in. That could work too.
Yeah, it says it's fine.
Yeah, still not getting anything. It's weird. StreamYard acts kind of funny there. But while we're waiting for you to get your audio, let's get to these questions here from Jacob. He says, "Let's go Stars. Who's going to stop Dallas if they advance and get Robo and Miro back for round 2?" Well, the question is, how are they going to be? Right, they're coming off injuries. Could be interesting. We'll get obviously Travis's take on this in a second. Travis, give me a thumbs up if your mic, if you go to your audio settings and you click on audio, it should show your mic and you should be getting levels there. If you're getting those, then that's good. If you aren't, then you are getting it. Okay, weird. Yeah. Maybe try hopping back out of the stream and then hopping back in and see if that works. That'll probably be the best way because this is what I do. This is live. So it's great. If Sullivan does not go to Boston, who do you think goes there? Moving on from Monty was a huge blunder, I think, or was it the fit just not right? Trying to think who's available. So you got Dan Bilesma, obviously, who has a cup. He would be sought after, although he hasn't had a lot of success since then, right? He went to Buffalo, coached Seattle's minor league team, and then coached Seattle, which didn't go so well. You've got, actually, I think there was a list yesterday of some of the coaches available. Oh, Joel Quenneville. That's a name to keep an eye on. Now, obviously, there's some red tape with that, with the whole situation with Chicago. But I could see Quenneville possibly going there too. Here we go. I think we got our guy back here, Travis. Travis, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. We're good. Let's take a step back here. Who's going to stop Dallas if they advance and get Robo and Miro back for round 2? I think it'll certainly be a boost. But the one thing I was kind of warning him is guys may be back, but they might not be there to their true form.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one thing to keep in mind, especially Miro.
Yeah. The big thing on Miro has been taking contact. That they were very, very cautious with Tyler Seguin on that, and I feel like they've been kind of the same way with Heiskanen. And Robo, huge. That injury is fresh, so you never know how long that's going to be. They've been saying week to week. You never know. Which is, that's never a good sign when it goes immediately to week instead of day to day. But it's that those two full strength would make this lineup very, very dangerous, and it's already dangerous without them. Apparently, they've proven that. They've proven that in this series. There was kind of questions when that happened whether they could be as strong as they have been.
If Sullivan does not go to Boston, who do you think goes there? Moving on from him was a huge blunder. So I'm going to show you. We have a sports book here in British Columbia, and they've already got the odds up for coaches. They're not using the American odds, but you can definitely tell. Obviously, the higher the number, the less likely it's going to be happening here. But you got a lot of names. This is for the Canucks head coach, by the way.
Yeah.
Those odds, but you got a lot of big names out there. You got Jay Woodcroft, Peter Laviolette, Jeff Halpern, Dan Bilesma, who I mentioned, Claude Julien. I forgot about him. Jessica I guess Campbell. No, Campbell's still, I think, technically an assistant with the Kraken, but maybe doing that. By the way, they have Jim Hughes, Quinn Hughes' dad. Man, if you're the Canucks, try it. Maybe he'll stay. 50-1. John Tortorella's out there. You got Alan Vigneault, although Vigneault, I think, said he was done after that. But Vigneault coming back to Vancouver, people would probably be into that because he won a cup or went to the finals with the Canucks.
Finals,
David Quinn, Joel Quinn. So I think Quenneville could go to Boston. Now it fits the mold. Obviously, now that comes with some red tape, as we saw with the Oilers hiring Stan Bowman. We know the whole situation there. But I've heard from multiple people just in the news that it does seem like this is the year that Quenneville is going to come back. So he's got the cup wins. That could happen. You've also got Gerard Gallant. By the way, let me just throw this out there. I don't want. Like for the Canucks, I don't want Peter Laviolette. I don't want Joel Quenneville. The Canucks already have enough bad PR. They don't need any more. I don't want Gerard Gallant. I would be more happy with Manny Malhotra as a fresh option than get, a coach that I think is, that is bounced around a lot in the case of Laviolette and all these other names here too. But for Boston, I think there could be some options there. What do you think as far as the coaching carousel?
Yeah, I feel like those guys that you say you don't want are better fit for some of those East Coast teams. So, and some of the, more, I don't know, probably more perennial playoff teams. Not that Vancouver hasn't had its seasons, but some of those teams, you look at Quenneville, he's coached at Chicago, is one of the biggest brands in the NHL. So going to one of those bigger American brands would probably make more sense for him. You had mentioned that you said Tocchet you thought Tocchet was going to go to Philadelphia, and did you say Boston for Sullivan?
No. So I think Rangers for Sullivan. Although I could see Boston because again he's from Boston as well. So I would put Sullivan. My two options would go Rangers and Bruins. And then Tocchet could be. I think Tocchet could be an option for Boston as well. Same with New York because again New York's going to pay the money to get a good coach. Because they're not rebuilding. They're the owner. They're going to try and make this work. With the players they have, and they kind of have to with the cap restraints that they have too. So those are some ones as well. And then what was the other one I was looking at too? I was just trying to remember if Laviolette has coached the Bruins, but it was Nashville. I was close with the yellow team. So he's coached. Oh no, he was an assistant with the Bruins in 2000, 2001. So could Laviolette could be an option for Boston if they miss out. But I would think he would be a lower choice than some of those other names I mentioned.
In terms of Tocchet and Sullivan, I had the same destinations as you. I mean, Sullivan was assistant for the Rangers before going to the Penguins.
That's right. Yeah.
Tocchet, as you mentioned, most of his career was with the Flyers, but he also played for a bunch of the teams that have openings right now. So
you're right.
I would say Philly's probably the most likely, but he has ties to pretty much anywhere. Well, not anywhere, but I think it was at least three of the teams in there.
As far as ranking the coaches, though, if we're going in the order, and by the way, Drayson, I see your question. We'll get to that in a sec here. If I had to go rankings of coaches, I would probably go Sullivan's number one. I would go Tocchet number two, despite Quenneville. But again, Quenneville comes with red tape. Not every team's going to be wanting to get that bad PR. And then after that, I think it's kind of a free for all. I would put sort of another tier with like Laviolette. Bonus, I think, is staying retired. Claude Julien hasn't coached. Oh, Julien, I think, is a coach assistant with the Blues, if I'm not mistaken, right? Let me double check that.
I know he's an assistant somewhere. That sounds right.
He obviously has won a cup with Boston, so that's a bit appealing. You've got DJ Smith, who coached the Sens last, Luke Richardson, who's with the Blackhawks previously. So he's an assistant with the St. Louis Blues. Claude Julien could certainly get some work. And if there's one thing we know about the NHL, and some people don't like this, but it's kind of the way it's been for a while. If you've won a cup or you've had any sort of success in the NHL, there's a lot. You get 9 lives like a cat. Like you can stick around as long as you need to. So don't be surprised if some of these names get picked up. Like a Jay Woodcroft, I could see getting because I think he left Edmonton with a winning record. He could be one too. Lot of interesting changes as far as the coaching carousel goes. So
Yeah,
See how this
that Derek Lalonde being on there surprises me a bit. I was not happy with the way he ran.
No, with Detroit. No,
ran
absolutely
things in
not.
Detroit. Yeah.
To be fair, though,
got them back to the playoff
has
contention. Yeah.
Yeah, well, to be fair, and did you see that clip yesterday with Yzerman where he was talking about Jake Wallman and them getting rid of him, and he like wouldn't allow something happened in Detroit with
I
Wallman.
watched the whole press conference yesterday.
Oh, you did? Okay, my
sense
is something happened behind the scenes that he's not wanting to talk about.
Yeah, I mean that's as Detroit fans, we don't really know what happened. We just saw the trade happen, and we were like, why would you do that?
Because he added a sweetener. That's the weirdest part. Like he's actually played well for them, right?
Well, he was one of the best defensemen that Detroit had at the time too. So especially offensively, he had a bunch of like shootout winners as a defenseman. I mean, you don't see that very often. So it was very puzzling for Detroit fans as well. So
not as puzzling as them taking Zadina over. No, it wasn't Zadina. Who did they take over Quinn Hughes? That was the weirdest thing. Like I couldn't believe that Quinn Hughes was available in that draft, especially playing at Michigan. Why they went? Yeah, I think was it Philip Zadina? No,
I think it was Zadina.
Yeah, it was Zadina.
I think it was Zadina, but and
he's not in the NHL anymore.
Yeah, that was still a Ken Holland draft, I believe.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Well, yeah. Oh
yeah, because Yzerman would have still been with Tampa Bay. That's true. Either way.
So yeah, the thing is, Holland missed on like his last 6 first-round picks, so that set them back pretty far.
Jason says there's not enough emphasis being put on the poor play of Cale Makar right now. So we talked about it here, but I agree. But I always feel like there's certain teams that never get flack no matter what how badly they do, because I don't know. I've got a pet peeve with the media, and you can always tell they have certain teams that never get bad coverage. Like I say this time and time again, Carolina didn't get nearly enough bad press for them messing up the whole Mikko Rantanen situation. Like that to me, again, they're probably going to do well in the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to make it to the final. I have some questions about the goaltending, but I mean, this is 2 years in a row now that they blundered a trade. They blundered the Getzel trade last year, and then this without re-signing him. And then this year they don't, they don't get me wrong. I think they did the best they could with the whole Rantanen situation. But how do you not know the guy doesn't want to play for you?
Yeah,
it's crazy, So that's a pet peeve of mine in this industry is just that there are certain teams that never get any flack, and Colorado's one of them. And you're 100% right. Cale Makar's play has not been good. If this was the Leafs, for example, it would be front page news right now, but it's not because they just, again, it's always glowing reviews with Colorado. So we'll see here. We got about 5 minutes left here in the show. I guess for you, like, what's your schedule been like as far as I guess it's pretty much the same, but just a little bit more intense with the playoffs going on right now.
Yeah, it's just it's variable depending on what I'm able to get to and stuff. I mean, I've had few deadlines to meet with articles for Last Word, and then a few morning skates and stuff for Fanatics View. So it's been pretty good, but definitely busy and a lot of variables. I mean, you can assume when games are going to be started, but or when the game times are going to be, but you don't actually know. But luckily, it's been the same time for pretty much every game in this series. That's the nice thing about Denver and Dallas. But yeah, it's the other night we were out of the arena at like 12:30 in the morning. So it's it's interesting to get to that point. I mean, the game didn't start till 9:00 local time, so
that's late.
It's pretty interesting, but yeah, it's a lot to balance as freelancer and everything else. It's there's a lot going on around here these days, especially with the NFL draft happening at the same time, and
that's
NBA
right. Yeah,
playoffs. I mean, the Mavs aren't in the playoffs, but there's a lot of sports going on right now.
The Stars are obviously lower on the tier list as far as other sports. Like I obviously know. That's funny because I was talking to Taylor last week about just some hockey stuff. He's like, "Oh, I'm at the draft right now." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I totally forgot. Like that's top five right now."
Yeah.
Have you noticed, like, even with all that stuff going on, have you noticed, like, during the playoffs, is there more attention, more coverage on the Stars, or is it about the same as it would be during the regular season?
I think it's all the main outlets like the Dallas Morning News or ESPN and that stuff will add coverage when the playoffs, like add more coverage than their usual coverage when the playoffs come around. But I think it's been steadily, and then there's some like independent outlets and stuff and writers and stuff that have been doing a good job. But I think it's been steadily growing around here ever since they got good. Like that I've noticed over the past 3 years or so, there's probably better attendance at regular season games than there used to be. There's more hype. I mean, I've had people see me on the street and just be like, "We'll see you at the parade," and stuff like that. So it's like, it's interesting to see how quickly it's gone up. And I mean, I know there's a lot of transplants around here in the DFW area, but there's a pretty good hockey fan base, and that kind of goes into what I was saying earlier about, I walk in that building and I think this is what playoff hockey is supposed to be like. It's awesome to see a team like that in a region like this. Southern teams haven't, they've got some good teams in southern cities now, but traditionally Southern teams haven't been that great in the NHL, and to see a team like this do what they're doing is pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great to see the growth of the game. And I always get excited when I hear Americans getting into hockey. Like, it's just so cool for me because like here, it's a huge deal. Like, hockey is everything. Like, even like junior hockey, American League hockey, like Abbotsford Canucks are in the playoffs right now. Like, that's like the sliver of hope with the Canucks organization, is that they're actually got a good minor league team now. And it's close by. Like, I don't know if you knew this a couple of years ago, the Canucks' minor league team was in Utica, New York. Like, it made no sense. They have to take a day or two to get player transactions done because it was just on the other side of the country. It was really difficult. You guys have the same thing, like with the Dallas. Is it the Texas Stars? Is who you guys have in the NHL?
Yeah. So the Stars have the Texas Stars. It's about 3 hours. It's down near it's down near Austin. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's down near Austin. Yeah. I would say, and then Red Wings wise, they have Grand Rapids, which is the team that I grew up. I grew up going to a lot of those AHL games.
Cool. The Griffins,
because I lived in the Grand Rapids suburbs, and then but back then they were the Ottawa Senators affiliate for a while. So
really?
It took a while. Yeah.
We had that here years ago in Vancouver, where they had the Abbotsford Heat, which was the Calgary Flames affiliate. It's like, what Vancouver fan's going to cheer for Calgary? Like, that just doesn't, So they finally got the Abbotsford Canucks back. And just to give you an idea, Abbotsford's about 40 minutes to an hour away from downtown Vancouver. So it's a little bit closer. And the fact that they went with Canucks, like, you can wear your gear to both games, kind of with you guys too, right? It's a smart marketing strategy in a way to have, similar jerseys there, which is awesome. Quickly before we go, because you mentioned you grew up in, obviously Detroit and stuff. I assume you've been to Little Caesars Arena, because I went a number of years ago. It's a great arena.
I have not been to the new one.
Oh, you haven't?
I went to the Joe once.
Okay.
Because I've moved around a little bit growing up.
Okay. Gotcha.
And then the Little Caesars opened after I graduated college over there. So
makes sense. Yeah, I was there. I was living in Toronto at the time, and I was covering the UFC card in Detroit. So I went to a game because it was like a night off or whatever for media stuff. And it's cool. I think the coolest part about it is they've got all these restaurants in the arena. It feels like you're outside, but you're not. It's like they have this like kind of neat setup like within the arena where it feels like you're outside, but you're not. And then the seating is actually pretty well done too. It's a really nice arena. And I got to say too, they definitely cleaned up downtown. It looks really nice.
Oh yeah. That area with all the arenas, with Comerica and Ford Field and everything right there is pretty good. I was at a Tigers game at Comerica last last summer. So that was the last time I was in there. I just haven't been in Little Caesars yet. I've been to the other stuff.
In a while either, and maybe things will change this upcoming year. We'll have to see. Hey, Travis, thanks so much for doing this. We'll definitely get you on again soon at some point, depending on how Dallas does. But either way, we'll definitely, whenever the season's over for Dallas anyways, we'll definitely get you back on too to, kind of look ahead to next season. There's a lot to talk about. I know you work for a bunch of different places. You got a bunch of stuff coming up. Anything you want to plug before we get out of here? I'll give you the last word.
I mean, most of the stuff you're going to be able to find, throughout the playoffs is going to be Last Word on Hockey, Last Word on Sports, and then on the Fanatics View YouTube channel with some scrum interviews, some individual interviews. I did one with Colin Blackwell right before right before the game where he scored the game-winning goal. So that was a pretty awesome thing to see. But then NFL and college football, college basketball stuff on fansided.com as usual, and might be dusting off my Substack a little bit, see what else I can write in there if there's any time. But you can just find it on my website pretty much at Tyler. Or no, it's travistyler.info now. It used to be something different. So and then follow on Twitter at @TTyler_sports. Then I pretty much post everything that I write on there, so you'll be able to find.
It's easier to find you on the Twitter. That's what I always tell people with me too. I work for so many different. I'm just like you, but on the MMA thing. So all my stuff's all over the place. So it's easier. To just find
it's kind of difficult because you don't know who like how many people still have Twitter and stuff like that. Like people will be on different social media channels, so it's hard to tell which one to use.
Yeah, no, for sure. There you go. Travis Tyler, go follow him. Everything Dallas, Texas, everything that's going on. Make sure you check him out. And we'll be back next week, the usual time. Still figuring out a guest, but it's been a fun playoffs, guys. So make sure you stay tuned and hit that like button before you get out of here. And I'll talk to you guys next week.